Okay, question number 56. This is a slightly different problem here. They give us a table of values for f and g and f prime and g prime at different values of x. So let's get that table in front of us here so that we can see what's going on. So we've got f and we've got g and we've got f prime and we've got g prime. And we're talking about x equals 2. And we're also talking about x equals 3. When x equals 2, the table says f is 8, g is 2, f prime is 1/3, and g prime is -3. When x is 3, the table says f is 3, g is -4, f prime is 2 pi, and g prime is 5. Okay, and then there's a bunch of parts. A through E is all I assigned here. We don't know how to do F or H. You could do G, but if we get through A through E, that's probably good enough. Okay, so the question for all of them is evaluate the derivative and so if we're doing part A, it says 2 times f of x when x equals 2. Remember this new notation I introduced in class, this vertical bar and then a little subscript 2 down here means we're plugging in x equals 2. It's just a shorthand way of writing it. Okay, so 2 f of x when x equals 2. Okay, but that does not mean we're supposed to find f of x when x equals 2 and then multiply it by 2. That would be 8 for f of 2 times 2, that would be 16. But the question says find the derivative. So the derivative of 2 times f of x. The derivative is 2 times f prime of x at x equals 2. In other words, 2 times f prime of 2. That's going to be 2 times 1/3, which is 2/3. So if you had 16 for part A, I understand where you got that, no problem. But we got to pay attention to what the directions are saying. Find the derivative. The derivative means I'm not using this number. I'm using this one over here. All right, let's do part B. Part B is f of x plus g of x and we're doing this at x equals 3. Okay, the f plus g at x equals 3 would be 3 plus -4, which is -1. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the derivative. The derivative of f plus g is just f prime plus g prime. And we're going to evaluate that at x equals 3. In other words, f prime of 3 plus g prime of 3 which is 2 pi plus 5, and there you go, we're done. If we needed a decimal equivalent of that, we would type it into our calculator. This would be 6.28-ish plus 5, so 11.28. But 2 pi plus 5, done. Good enough. All right, so now that we've got the idea, let's go to some that are a little more complicated, starting in question C. I'm going to get rid of what we've got here, and here comes part C. Part C is f of x times g of x. And we're doing this at x equals 3. The derivative of f of x times g of x. Did you say 10 pi? F prime times g prime? Of course you didn't, because that's not right. When we take the derivative of f times g, we don't do f prime times g prime, no matter how much we want to. We use the product rule. F prime times g plus g prime times f. And all of that stuff gets evaluated at x equals 3. So it's f prime. We're using the red numbers here. Everything in red is at x equals 3. F prime is 2 pi. Times g is -4. Plus g prime, that's 5, times f, that's 3. So 2 pi times -4, that's -8 pi. 5 times 3, that's 15. -8 pi plus 15. There's our answer. We got to use the f prime and the g prime, but we also have to use the f into the g because the product rule includes those. So everything gets lumped in there. All right, good. Let's go on to part D. Part D is f of x divided by g of x. And we're doing this at x equals 2. Our derivative, that equal sign right there shouldn't really be an equal sign, right? Because this doesn't equal that. It's what we get when we take the derivative. That shouldn't really be an equal sign there. That's okay. Okay. Anyway, f of x over g of x, the derivative of this when x equals 2. Got to use the quotient rule. Quotient rule says take the bottom and square it. Leave that on the bottom. And on the top, it's the bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative of the bottom. Bottom, derivative of top, minus top, derivative of bottom, all over bottom squared. Okay, so let's put our numbers in. We're using the blue numbers here because it's x equals 2. So let's do the easy one first. G squared on the bottom. G is 2, so we want a 4 on the bottom. On the top, G, well that was 2, times f prime is 1/3 minus f, that's 8, times g prime is a negative 3. So we've got 2/3 minus, and that minus together are going to become a plus, plus 24 all over 4. Which becomes 74/3 over 4, which is 74/12. We can divide both the top and the bottom by 2 and get 37/6, but that's as far as we can go. 37/6 would be the reduced form of our answer. There's no difference at all between this answer here, 37/6, and this answer here. All we did is reduce it, which means you want to leave your answer like that, be my guest, but be ready, because on a multiple choice test, you know it's not going to be in that form. It's going to be written as 37/6, and you got to know that those are the same thing. Okay. One more. We got E left, right? Let's get this stuff out of here, and we'll do E, and we'll call it a night. E is f of g of x evaluated when x is 2. Okay, we're supposed to find the derivative, but just for the heck of it, let's talk about what f of g of 2 would be. F of g of 2 would be f of whatever g of 2 is. Well, g of 2 is 2. So it's f of 2. And according to our table, f of 2 is 8. So f of g of 2 is 8. But the question asked for the derivative, so this is not our answer. Our derivative is going to be the derivative of f of g of x. So the derivative of f of g of x. Well, that's a function of a function, so we know we're going to be doing a chain rule. And your pros at this part, it's f prime of g of x times g prime of x. And we're supposed to be evaluating that when x equals 2. So f prime of g of x, that's f prime of g of 2 times g prime of 2. Well, f prime of g of 2 is 2, times g prime of 2 is negative 3. And now, f prime of 2, f prime of 2 is 1/3. Times, we still have this negative 3 here, which means 1/3 times 3 is 1, and we've got that minus sign there. Negative 1 is our final answer.